They started, woo. Just open your mouth and say, they started laughing. Don't the Lord see I'm on this walker? Abraham, don't God know you got cataracts? This is an impossibility. How we gonna have a child? You old and I'm old. Come here, Sarah. Sarah, the Lord told me last night that we gonna have a child. And when he told me that, you know what I said, Sarah? And then I told you, and what you say, Sarah? Now tell your neighbor, stop laughing and believe God. Stop laughing and trust God. I don't care how impossible it might seem to be, but trust God. I said trust God. You ought to grab your neighbor by the hand and shout, neighbor, through it all, I learned to trust in Jesus. Through it all, I learned to trust in God. Through it all, I learned to depend on his word. Help me say yes. Say yes, Lord. So Abraham said, he said, Sarah, you heard what God said. Even though we're old, he's going to give us a blessing. Even though we're old, he's going to give us a child. Even though we're old, he's going to give us an Isaac. So what we need to do is listen to God. You ought to tell your neighbor, just listen to God. Just listen to God. So Abraham and Sarah started listening to God, and they went upstairs to the bedroom. You ought to tell your neighbor, I've been there before. Come on, tell them, I've been there before. And they started trusting in the Lord. Tell your neighbor, just trust him and take your faith and let your faith meet the level of your expectation. So the Bible said, can I preach in here? Well, since you insist, I'll preach anyhow. The Bible said that Sarah gave birth to Isaac. Y'all don't hear me. 9 months later, all of the folk who didn't believe it, God brought it to pass. All of the folk that said it couldn't be done, God brought it to pass. You ought to grab your neighbor and shout, neighbor, your Isaac is on the way. Your miracle is on the way. Your blessing is on the way. Say Sarah, you know we got some haters. I ought to be a great-great-granddaddy, but I'm a daddy for the first time. Y'all don't hear me.